Imagine you are a guest chef on one of the largest cruise ship lines and you get to travel all over the world cooking for people. Is this the best job you could ever imagine, or the worst? TV personality and author of 9 cookbooks, Chef George Geary joins me today to talk about his world culinary tours, being a guest chef on Holland American Cruise lines, and his newest book, LA Legendary Restaurants. Of course, we dish from the legendary Sunset Marquis. Well, the pressure's on when you're serving a celebrity chef. What to order? I order in some of the best dishes from the Cavatina restaurant, a legend in and of itself. We have charred octopus, albacore poke, seared tuna with fennel vinaigrette, and baby kale and organic grain salad. And what could go better with this than Kendall Jackson's Vintner's Reserve Pinot Gris? Barrel aging stainless steel fermentation retains Kendall Jackson Vintner's Reserve Pinot Gris' vivid fruit qualities and bright, juicy texture. It enhances the pear, honeydew, and tangerine flavors inherent to the grape. Its ripe citrus flavors, with aromas of tropical mango, melon, and juicy peach, bring out the bright flavors and layered texture. So sit tight and grab your own glass of Kendall Jackson wine. After a quick word about podcasts and a word from Chef's Choice and Kendall Jackson Winery, I'll be right back with Chef George Geary. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, The Dinner Party with Elizabeth Alfano, on iTunes. Just search for The Dinner Party, or if SoundCloud is your thing, you can find me there too by searching for The Dinner Party. Subscribe and you'll never have to hunt for great, engaging interviews again. They'll just land on your computer or your iPhone every time a new podcast comes out. So subscribe now to The Dinner Party Podcast with me, Elizabeth Alfano, because the best conversations really do happen over dinner. Chef's Choice is the brand you can trust for all your sharpening needs. Chef's Choice highly acclaimed knife sharpeners are used by home chefs, professionals, and outdoor enthusiasts around the world. Chef's Choice has a passion to create the very best. Whether you're seeking advanced engineered waffle makers, kettles, food slicers, knife sharpeners, and more, Chef's Choice is the brand you can trust. For more information, visit chefschoice.com or call 800-342-3255. Kendall Jackson is a proud sponsor of The Dinner Party Podcast with Elizabeth Alfano. Kendall Jackson believes it's not what you're drinking to, it's who you're drinking with. Before your next dinner party, visit kj.com to explore Kendall Jackson's diverse collections of high-quality California wines, from Vintner's Reserve Chardonnay, America's favorite Chardonnay for more than 24 years, to their newest release of vineyard designate wines. Kendall Jackson's got a wine you'll love. Enjoy Kendall Jackson responsibly. Kendall Jackson Winery, Santa Rosa, California. Hi, everybody. I think we're live. Facebook Live. I just want to say for the record, before I introduce my guest today, never would I wear a t-shirt to an interview. But obviously, today is an exception. So the Cubbies are back in Chicago tomorrow. Go Cubbies, it's official, I've said it. So I want to welcome Chef George Geary here with me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I'm glad that you're here. You have a new book out. Of course, I'll do a little pan here of this great book, LA's Legendary Restaurants. And we're going to talk about this in just a little bit. So many great places in LA, and a lot of these LA restaurants are in Chicago too, so we're going to talk about that too. But before we talk about all the great spots, I'll mention the great spot where we are here, the Sunset Marquis, truly a legendary place. So many rock stars have been here, screenwriters, everybody under the sun. In fact, I think if you look at the wall, you'll see just a smattering of people who've been here. Madonna, That was shot here, I think. Green Day, Jimmy Page, Alice Cooper. So we are in bar 1200 of the Sunset Marquis, legendary Sunset Marquis. So George, before we get to dishing, and we eat here, people, so you might hear some crunching and you might see
People will be hungry.
People will be hungry. Yeah. We have some great things here. So I've got the tuna fennel salad, and you've got a quinoa, baby kale, goat cheese salad. We've got some poke, some charred octopus, and some homemade potato chips, and Kendall Jackson Pinot Gris. So I have set you up in style.
You have a party.
I do have a party. I hope you're going to eat. Some people are nervous. Yeah, okay. No. Not you.
Do I feel like
No. No. Well, plus you've been a TV personality, a chef on TV. Right now it's San Diego Living is a show that you do a lot.
San Diego Living is the one I do a lot, but I started here in Los Angeles in 92, 93.
But you're not from LA.
Yeah, I was born here.
Oh, you are?
In Santa Monica, just down the street.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah,
great.
So, and that's where my mom was a car hop, because you saw that in the book. Mm-hmm. So, see, this is great. I was taught when people put bites in their mouths, you can say other things.
Yes, this is your time to talk, because I'm eating.
So you can't ask questions, but it's still great. But I was the pastry chef for Disney, and I was there almost 10 years, and they decided to get rid of the department by Frozen. And the very next day, I got a morning show with. It was with, I'm trying to think of the show. It was a LA morning show. And I did the food segments on there for a while. Then I switched to National with Mike and Maddie that was on ABC.
I remember that.
And then that was during the OJ trials. So we kept getting preempted half of our show. And then I started doing morning shows around the country. And every time I have a new book, I travel the country. And now, San Diego Living I've been on for a number of years. I was just on yesterday. It feels like my home.
Yes, yes. You have the personality for it. It's something so interesting because you have 9 cookbooks, and now your 10th book has just come out. And you are, I'll say, a TV personality chef. And you started with the Food Network.
Well, in '93 when they launched it, I traveled with Robin Leach. People say, "Who's he?"
Oh, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Oh, we know.
Yeah,
we know.
He's in Vegas now, pushing buffets or something. But it was, if you go to Las Vegas and you watch your TV remote, like it'll say he comes on and he's talking about which places to go to and go
in
eat.
Vegas. Of the buffets.
Yeah, of the buffets and stuff.
So is it Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous buffets?
No. Almost. Yeah.
Anti-rich and famous.
He's not doing the champagne dreams and caviar wishes or whatever. But and then so I started traveling for them. And I was working with Donna Hanover, that was the former Mayor Giuliani's wife, and when he was cheating on her. Can we talk dirt while we're on this show?
We can. Giuliani, huge dirt, which would lead to Trump dirt, obviously. Okay, but we know.
He left his wife during the time that I was working, and for his secretary that was a little young, but we won't go into too much detail.
Well, they like them young over there, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see last night, the dinner?
Okay, I did not see Donald Trump get booed by priests. I didn't. I forget what I was watching. I was watching the Cubs. That's why I didn't see it.
What was funny about the only part was when Hillary was talking about Giuliani, he did not crack a smile. In fact, I thought one eye wasn't working right. But anyway.
We digress. We only just started and we digress. Yeah. Well, the reason I asked about you being a TV personality chef, great, dig in, please. And you have all these books. I'm surprised, and we're going to talk about cruise ships in just a minute. I'm surprised that you've actually never opened a restaurant.
No.
Do I have that right?
Yeah.
And why is this?
Because.
Yeah, okay. Too much work, right?
I've helped open pastry shops. I've done some consulting. I watch those consulting shows like The Profit. I just love. I'm like the Profit guy with no money to pay them to take a percentage of the business. But I look at it and I thought, you're doing this wrong. There's a little tiny donut store that opened by my house, and they're trying so hard. And I wish I could go in there and say something, but I just don't because, it's just.
You can see everyone's mistakes.
And I'm going, this is not. You're going to be closed.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, my bank that I go to that I'm. Well, I know all the people in my bank, and they're so nice, the gals that work there. And they said, "So what do you think about the new place that opened down the street, ABC store, let's say?" I said, 6 months. And they said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, first of all, did you give them a loan?" And they said, "No." I'm just kind of curious. And so I told them the problems, and sure enough, that's what it was. And they closed down. But people don't want to pay for a consultant, which they should.
See, now I would think this would be a reason that you would want to open your own restaurant because you
no.
feel that you have all the
I'm
cues.
too old now.
Well,
I mean, this is where you say no, you aren't.
oh, I'm sorry. No, you're not. No, you're not.
No, I could not stand. Well, first of all,
It's physically so demanding.
Oh,
though.
yeah. And this guy that I know, a great, great caterer, but he doesn't know how to cook. You need to know one or the other, business or the artistic part of the food. That's why husband and wife teams or two people teams work well. Front of the house, back of the house.
Right,
So
yes.
most of the chefs can't do both.
And who would want to? Because both are enormous
No.
tasks. But
Yeah.
I would think you would want to maybe partner with a business person or.
Yeah.
But no.
You'd think, no.
No, okay. Well, that's funny because you make these faces here on Facebook Live. We can see it. The podcast we can't, but you make these little faces.
What faces am I saying?
Well, you can see that you just don't want to open the restaurant. It really
No.
doesn't entice you at all.
What I thought back in the day, because we always back in the day, when I was gone from Disney, I thought, what would I do? It would be nice to open up a bakery, high-end bakery. I worked at one years back, and I thought that might be kind of fun. Then I thought, and now a dream of mine, not to open one, but I'm gonna next January take a whole course that Ben and Jerry's took at the University of Pennsylvania. It's all on ice cream making. And people are like, are you opening up an ice cream store? No, but I'd really like to learn. And there's like the place in Brentwood Village with the fresh, she goes shopping at the market on Wednesdays and gets all the fresh produce and makes ice creams with all the produce. And I think that would be really cool to have a high-end ice cream.
I have a very favorite ice cream place on Abbot Kinney, Salt and Cream,
Oh,
I think
yeah,
it's called.
yeah.
And I've gone vegan except for fish, but I don't eat dairy and I don't eat meat. And they have vegan ice cream. And I'm telling you, it's so
I
good.
thought you were going to say, I go vegan except when I'm down on Abbot Kinney.
It's tempting. No,
Yeah.
it's seriously very tempting. No, but I stick to my vegan because I don't need to cheat. They have this great vegan ice cream, so I love them. But well, my transition there is, it just doesn't entice you to open a restaurant.
No.
And I have to say, when I hear about you being on Holland American Cruise Lines, I think
For
now
8 years.
8
Yeah.
years, I can't think of anything worse. That to me just sounds like the worst job in the world.
Mine's the best job in the world, but I've done for 8, and they phased out my. I have one
Right.
more cruise, so then we're phased out, which is fine. People are you bitter? I'm bitter with Disney. I'm not bitter with Holland America.
Oh,
No,
interesting.
I've seen the world with Holland America. There was 1 year, a 12-month span that I taught on every continent.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I was on. What I do, rough life. I work when the ship is out at sea, and I do a demo for an hour. I prep it a little bit. I have people that make the tastings. I don't go into the kitchen. I don't even wear. I wear a chef coat. That's about it. I create menus for the high-end restaurants or the big dining room. I'll do a special menu for an event. I do a thing called sip and savor. I create an appetizer, and everybody has a glass of wine, and they pair the appetizer with that. So we keep the passengers busy, and I do a hands-on cooking class. So if I'm gone for 2 weeks, we've got 4 sea days. I work for an hour and a half on each of those days, and that's it. Not that hard. I'm not in the kitchen,
Oh,
but
that
I
is
don't tell
pretty
anybody
good.
else how easy it is. Since the gig is almost over,
You
I'll
can
tell
say
you how.
it now.
Plus, I get a veranda suite, and they fly me back and forth, and somebody I want to bring.
Okay, I've changed my tune here.
So-
This is the best
Yeah,
job in the
no,
world.
the worst job is being under cooking in the ship.
That's what
No,
I thought
I'm
you were
not-
doing.
oh,
Oh, you're
no.
not doing that.
I'm above that.
Okay.
Come on. And then
I
I do
stand
book
corrected.
signings and you get to know the passengers. The ship that I call the home ship that I'm on a lot, the Amsterdam, and right now it's in the South Pacific. And I know a big group on there, and I won't be joining it this year for the World Cruise. And this is my 7th I did 7 World Cruises, which those are 4 months. They start January and they're gone for 4 months. They start in Florida and end in Florida.
Wow.
And so, yeah,
And
they
it
go
goes
around the
the
whole
world.
in 4 months. And they do about 45 stops, 2 or 3 overnights. I join it in different places in the world. So I've gotten, now that's a book in itself. The different ports that you go to and how I was in one place, where was I at? Some place, it was 2 a.m. and they said, no ship come here, no ship come here. And I was like, it was Casablanca. And I said, well, it comes in the morning and I have a hotel. No hotel here for you. And I'm the last person coming into this port. And I'm like, so finally they let me go so I could get to this hotel and then the next morning. But yeah.
I imagine that there are many stories on and off ship. So I imagine there are also many stories on ship.
And they could do two types of shows, reality shows. The crew and the passengers.
Oh, completely.
Both do not mix unless they have to. Those people that are having dinner with the captains, they don't really want to be with you. I don't want to be with you.
Right.
Yeah. We do a thing called, no, I shouldn't be that mean. There's a few people, but there's a thing called Good Morning, whatever the ship is. So Good Morning Amsterdam, and the cruise director hosts it, and I co-host when I'm on the ship. And he decided to tell everybody that's there's hundreds of people in the theater, George would love to have dinner with any of you at their table. Well, these people invite you to their table, which is very nice, but it didn't cost them a penny. And you'll get to some tables and they'll say, you don't drink wine, do you? And of course you're going to go, well, okay, not while we think about it.
Please, let's stop that right now. Thank you, Kendall Jackson.
Kendall Jackson.
So they
get you to come to their table, and they want you to entertain them.
Yes,
They'll say,
right.
oh, tell us a joke, you're funny. And it's like,
no.
oh, what in the world, get me out of here.
Yes.
But, see, they're all on the ship, I can talk about them.
They're going around the world now without you.
But then so he says, George, so I come up with this. Only if you have the high-end wine package, I'll come to your table, or we go to the high-end restaurant.
And people
I'm busy.
And people invite you, right? Then don't they?
The nice people invite you to the high-end restaurant.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
The fans.
Yeah.
Because I'll say that you do have a lot of fans. I looked at your website, and of course, in addition to doing the cruises, which now is being faded out, you give your own cooking classes around the world, right? You do these tours through Europe, either Belgium or Italy or France. And as I understand it, 2017 is completely sold out.
And 18, we just sold the other day.
You did? Yeah. Because as of yesterday, there were 2 seats left. Okay, people, 2018 is out. Oh, great.
I could add another week, but we live in a villa in the south of France in a little village called Sayon. And it just, I've changed people's views on France.
How so?
So many people, a lot of people, oh, I hate Paris, they're so mean there. Well, I give everybody a book. Just because of the way they do things is not wrong. It might be wrong for you, kind of like in general. How people look at the world is different.
Are different, yes.
Yeah, one thing in France is you do not go out unless you're completely dressed appropriately.
And that still exists today.
Yes,
I lived in Paris, so I lived there 3 years.
You would never take your trash out unless you were dressed appropriately.
Right, yes, yeah.
No
sweatpants ever. No shorts.
Oh,
no.
You're a tourist or you're
And even this. I mean, I would never wear this T-shirt in Paris unless it was today.
See, but
I would still have to wear it today
Paris
for the karma.
Baseball team was playing, but no, it's fascinating, and so I want to create this, and they like shopping in the south of France. We have, I say we, it's my 28th season being there. So the grocery stores will open up for a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours in the afternoon. You don't go at lunch.
Right.
The checkers are sitting on little stools.
Having
you bag
lunch.
your own stuff.
Yes,
you
right.
do not bother them.
Yes.
And they're closed by 5, 6 o'clock. So you have to plan. So if you run out of milk, you're out of luck. So one time I had somebody say, oh, we'll just go to the store. I go, that's not, you have to change your lifestyle to the French lifestyle.
And it is so beautiful when you can make that shift because life goes slower.
Oh,
you're paying much more attention to the food. You're
Right.
getting daily food, quality food
gasoline.
every day.
You can't get any of that
Right.
stuff
Yes.
certain times of the day. You
Right.
have to plan. You kind of think in your mind, after being there for 2 weeks, I'll go, oh, yeah, today's the day I have to do this or that. So
Now, would you ever live there?
No.
No?
No.
I'm surprised you
love
wouldn't want to
Southern
retire.
California.
Yes, well, sure. I think of Southern
Yeah.
California as very much like the south of France
Oh,
in
it
a
really
way.
is. That's
so.
what I tell people. It's
Yeah.
very easy going.
It is.
Well, south of France. We're normally there during the film festival, close to that time frame.
So busy then.
Yeah.
Very busy.
Yeah. Well, I was getting gas at this one little village place that I go to all the time, and I said to the guy, I said, I hear Angelina Jolie is here. He goes, the big villa on the right up there. I said, have you seen her? No, just her cars come in
Cars,
for gas.
plural.
Yeah, all the cars come to get the gas.
Well, okay, so we transition really easily then into your book.
Were we supposed to?
Yes.
I'm going to take a bite while you talk
please
about my
do.
book.
Yeah, so now, this is my turn to talk about your book.
Okay.
Your turn to eat. So this book, the legendary, LA's legendary
Oh,
restaurants.
the goat cheese is great on this.
Wonderful. Cavatina restaurant here at the Sunset Marquis is where we ordered in all our food. And the Cavatina has its own history of, Elton John eats there when he's here to record. There's a recording studio in this building. So it's called Nightbird Studios. And, so many of the rock and rollers do their stuff here as well. So in fact, last week, I pretty much here about once a week at the Sunset Marquis, and Jeremy Piven just walked in and he sat down and we were like, hello, and he's like, oh, I don't recognize you, I'm in the wrong place. So he had a different photo shoot in a different place. But, people are just walking in and out of this place left and right, actors, actresses, rock and roll people. But in your book, the LA legendary restaurants, you have a lot of restaurants that are already closed, actually.
Originally, that's what the book was going to be, all closed.
Only closed, okay.
Because we wanted to keep the history. Every chapter talks about even the phone number that it was.
I love that. You have the old original phone. Some of these places were open from the 20s to the 40s or the 30s to the 50s. They have the original phone number. Not to mention, I'll just open any page will show a lot of original pictures, and Frank Sinatra's in a lot of them. But
he enjoyed. But like here's Perino's. We've got the years, the address today.
Right.
Because as you know, we're
changed,
what city are we in?
Los Angeles.
But then certain areas of the Strip is West Hollywood. It
Right.
used to be all Los Angeles.
Yes.
So we've got the exact address, the phone numbers, and sometimes there'd be two phone numbers, a secret phone number, because they didn't have open table. You had to know the maitre d' to get a good table. And then
a tiny little note on that. I think it's so fascinating how restaurants have changed. It used to be the person you had to know was front of the house,
right?
The maitre d'.
Yeah. Now it's the
back of the house. The chef.
Like Spago's is just down the street where it was,
Yeah.
and that was one that had a second phone number. You couldn't get it. You could get in, but it was if they had tables left over.
Right.
You wouldn't get something. So then we have the architect, the type of food. Architects are very important to me. I think I would have been an architect if I was in culinary, because you're from Chicago. My quest and what I do a lot with is the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation out of Oak Park. I do a lot of fundraising for them to save their houses so they don't get torn down and stuff. So I created an event called Dinner in a Wright Home 14 years ago. And I pair up a home with a high-end chef, and they would cook, and high-end people that could afford it would get to eat in a home, like 12 people.
Wonderful.
And they'd be more corporate donors, but we raised millions of dollars over the years on that.
Oh,
so
that's
we've saved
wonderful. And so many of his houses are in the Midwest. I mean, a couple here in California, but...
we got one up the street,
yes,
not too far.
Yeah.
But so that's why we've got the architect and the type of architecture and stuff, because you can't go to Perino's today. This was a great place on Wilshire, and the inside they filmed for years afterwards because it was the most beautiful filming area. The colors and the hues, and it was pinks and coral colors, so it looked good on camera, and the big banquettes. And now it's a condo unit.
Gosh darn it.
And they've kept the name, so it's called Perino's Condos, and they have the whole front area of where you drive in. But something's wrong. It kind of, when they change it that much, it's kind of kitschy, kind of strange.
Yeah, it doesn't really translate. What would make you want to do a book with so many of the restaurants already closed? Is it to keep the culinary history or the LA history?
That and the architects, because the architects are gone. When I was researching the book, and a number are right on the street.
Yes, right.
And one was down the street, and they tore it down just recently, the building. And a Marriott hotel's going in. And I really think they could have taken the front of it and turned it into the lobby, because it was the Scandia restaurant, which was really fascinating.
Neat. Yeah, so the Sunset Marquis here is right off of Sunset Strip, and that's where so many of the restaurants were.
Yeah.
So some of my favorite, because we had a lot of these restaurants also in Chicago. So some of them. Spago, of course, ended up coming to Chicago.
Brother, Wolfgang Puck's brother ran that one for a while.
And when it started, this was so interesting, I thought, to learn about this. When it started, at the time now it seems like nothing, but at the time he was the first one to have gourmet pizza. Wolfgang Puck was. And so that was one of the, he took casual dining to sort of the high end, and it became the in spot for all Oscar parties.
And even going inside the dining room, you looked at it and you thought, well, this doesn't seem that special. It was the people that made it special.
Right.
And the tables were like almost not picnic tables, but the chairs were wire mesh with seats, covers. But right when you walked in, the spa goes, the most beautiful fresh flower bouquet was on the corner, and the bar was there. And the building's empty, so if we'd like to open up a restaurant there, we could.
Isn't it amazing? Yeah. Well, if you ever change your mind, chef, I'll do the business, you do the cooking. you see, we're a pair already.
See, it'll work.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned nature, because here at the Sunset Marquis, I think one of the reasons that it has been such a hideaway for high-end celebs is it's on 4.2 acres. Now, you're in LA. Where are you going to get 4.2 acres? But it just curves around deep in all these trees and these little villas that hide away.
And the pools.
So a lot of people can duck away and get privacy here, which is so great. So another Chicago restaurant, which started in LA, Hamburger Hamlet. And I love this. I remember as a kid eating there all the time. I think it was on Oak Street in Chicago. But it started here, and I want to say it was Marilyn and Harry Lewis, if I have this right. And they were both actors, and they had that combination of he was in the back cooking, and she was front of the house, and she set up this whole rule book of what you had to do, and she was really a great.
You never used the word fried.
I love that. Yeah.
Sauteed.
Everything had to be sauteed. So she wanted to sort of up the profile of the hamburger, if you will. But the cool thing, and I would never have known this had I not seen this book, which I think is actually, as we go into sort of trivia, a great Christmas present, because it's so well. It's
we got that coming up.
It's just so iconic. Anyway, they were both actors. And they knew that the role everybody wanted to play was Hamlet, so they called it Hamburger Hamlet, which I think is super fun.
And she got into more of design work, because she had her own clothing design line for a while. And she was in Chicago. I don't know if you read the part of her getting mugged in Chicago. It was fascinating.
Okay, now don't go down the Donald Trump way. Trump is always dissing Chicago, I gotta say.
No, I love Chicago. There's certain cities could be my second home on certain times of the year. But and I have so many friends in Chicago. But what happened was, I believe it was CBS. It could have been NBC. They knew she was in town, and they called her hotel and said, "Would you be interested in coming this morning to do a news show?" Sure. We're going to send a limo. Well, they weren't sending a limo. Somebody stole her jewelry and tied her up. And
oh my gosh.
Up. Yeah, because she owned a condo there.
So it was a fake limo that came to get her, and then they sort of absconded with them and their things.
Yeah. So.
Gosh darn it, Chicago.
Yeah.
Whoops.
They couldn't have been Cubs fans.
There you go. They couldn't have been Cubs fans, those people. What year was this?
Oh, I tell it in the book.
Oh,
okay. It was 60s, I think.
Okay.
But she was, they didn't get married at first. They worked hard, and it was just up the street on Sunset. And then they moved it, and then they added a lot of, in Washington, D.C. had some too. But the day, and back in the 50s, 60s, you got married.
Right, of course.
You didn't live with somebody.
No, you did not.
So what happened is Sammy Davis Jr. was friends and said, "We will take care of your place for the night. Go to Vegas." So that's what they did. And so he's flipping burgers. And he and a few other people, stars, he'd come in after playing some of the clubs, because it was open until 3 in the morning.
So this is what I love about this book, is you really get these background stories, and you have this sense for how, maybe this still exists today, tell me if it does, I don't think it does. You have this sense for how the star confided in the chef that this was a place they could go of safety, and they became very good friends, almost like an artist-to-artist relationship.
Yeah, you didn't have TMZ, you didn't have cameras.
Yes, these were safe havens.
They were like, and it was known. But then the TMZ of the time was like Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons. They
also went these places as well.
I have pictures of them.
Yeah.
There was one, I can't recall the exact, but there was the Cock and Bull restaurant. I told you the wine would fall.
Our wine is tipping over. I'm going to, Josh, maybe if you can save our wine from falling over here. Sorry, folks, yes. So,
but the Cock and Bull restaurant that now is the Jaguar dealership, one of them, Luella or Hedda, was driving by and noticed a star. I tell the exact star, but this is the story. His car was out front, packed for a road trip, and she knew he was leaving his wife. So she ran in to get the scoop, and sure enough, he was leaving the wife.
Wow.
And so that's how you had to do it back then. You didn't have all these
internet and things. You had to be on the ground getting your scoop.
You need to know what's going on in all these places. And she ate every night somewhere. And but that was one of the cute little things that I read about.
It reminds me, for all my Chicago folks, sort of Irv Kupcinet. I don't know if that is a name that rings true with you, but he was the same thing in Chicago, and he'd always be eating at the Pump Room, and that's how he'd get these stories. I'm going to have to, not only am I going to have to beg you to be my business partner in a restaurant, but I'm going to have to beg you to do a Chicago version of this, because I think with so many restaurants, the Billy Goat Tavern, and of course you could do it in New York too, but the Pump Room and Green Mill, I mean, there's just so many of these places with these great stories.
Yeah, every city has
it. Yeah,
stories of what goes on.
So another thing that I learned in this book, and I'm almost embarrassed to say it.
Uh-oh.
I know.
You read the book cover to cover, it sounds like.
I tried to do my homework here. So Trader Vic's started here. And I guess it was Victor Bourguignon, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, back in the 50s.
He was this great wheeler dealer. So his wife said his new restaurant would be called Trader Vic's because he was this great trader. And, you know, Trader Vic's, we probably all remember them, Chicago as well. I think it was in the Palmer House at the time, the Trader Vic's. Yeah. And so, you know, all this tiki stuff and these island kind of drinks. And they created crab rangoon. Of course, if you think about it, crab rangoon has cream cheese in it, so it's not really authentic from Thailand or the islands. Of course, I should have known that. But I had come to know crab rangoon as just like something you always get that I sort of accidentally thought was authentic, but of course they created
Nothing in their menu was authentic.
That's so funny, I know.
Even the drinks, if you threw a juice of some fruit and some rum of some sort, you could get this tiki thing. But the whole thing was they were mostly in Hilton properties because that was the Conrad type Hilton. It was a high-end Hilton in Beverly Hills that then Merv Griffin owned, and now it's back to another company. But that's what kind of happened is when the one in Beverly Hills opened in the 50s, they put that and they put a L'Escoffier in there, and I've got that listed. And they wanted... Most hotels at the time in the 50s would have a very nice restaurant and a little cafe or something, almost a diner almost.
Right.
But so the Biltmore didn't have a name restaurant that was open prior, and neither did the Ambassador. They had their own restaurants and their own chefs. So what they did is the Hilton is they want and they didn't just put somebody's name, a chef's name on a restaurant. They wanted their own restaurant. So that's where Trader Vic's came in. But I'm sad that it's not there anymore.
Yes.
You go to the poolside and they call it the Trader Vic's Lounge, and they have like
not
3
the same.
drinks. It's not at all. They have wallpaper up. That's about it. But it was a secluded inside to where people could have little
huts.
Almost affairs.
Oh, I see.
I mean,
yes, I see.
In little tiny,
Yes, right. In little sort of bamboo huts.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I love about the concept of Trader Vic's is it was usually you build something and then it's around so long it becomes kitsch. But it started kitsch day one. It started out as kitsch. It was making fun of itself before it even started.
And today, tiki is so popular and most of them have closed.
Yes.
So we've got one, I'm dying to see, there's a Royal Hawaiian in Laguna Beach. It closed down for about 3 years ago. Well, it just reopened, new owners, and it's very kitschy, Hawaiian-ish. But I've been to the South Seas, all those islands down there in Fiji and just Samoa, and I thought some of these foods would be down there, and none are down there.
Isn't that so funny?
No. In fact, the executive chef from Trader Vic's, they also... or was it Don the Beachcomber, one of the two, because they both were about the same time frame of food, created all the menus for the airlines, for United Airlines. So on the big 747s going to Hawaii and going to Guam and Japan, and people thought, ooh, we've got... And that was one of the first things that they had, signature food from these chefs. So
it was really a very telling time. I mean, your book goes back to like the 1920s, but I'll say the 50s. It was really a very telling time in restaurants when restaurants became entertainment.
Because the book spans from the 1909, I think, from the original C.C. Brown's, the hot fudge sundae was invented there, and then all the way till, which I think is fascinating, the 80s. But let's skip to the 80s real quick because we're in political season.
Okay.
We had restaurants that were Democrat and we had Republican restaurants.
Do we still have this today? We don't
Not
really.
like that.
Oh.
You did not go. You can see Jerry Brown in a restaurant that the Democrat restaurant was called Trump's.
No, no,
Yes.
no.
And the building's still there, and there's a new restaurant on there. But it's right on Melrose and Robertson, and it was called Trump's. Michael owned it, and he one day he says, he wanted me to work for him, this chef, and I was down working at the studios. I was doing all sorts of things down Melrose, and he'd come in where I worked, and he said, come on. I said, nah, because there's no benefits, and I thought, no, I need, I was in my 20s, so I go by one day to deliver something, and he goes, you gotta go look out in the lobby or where everybody's eating. So I go out, and there are probably 30 Beverly Hills women with hats on, with their dogs with matching hats for a dog party. So all the dogs had matching hats so you knew who the owners were.
Right, yes.
And they all were trying to outdo each other with the hats.
With the hats.
And because no one wore hats in the 80s, once in a while you'll get it
Yeah.
here. But so that's how it was. But the restaurants span the war years. You had huge rooms like the Palladium. The few little places that serve food that don't now, that's still open down there.
So that's interesting. In war times, what was fashionable were big rooms. And
Big
then
rooms.
after the war, it
Smaller.
was small rooms, intimacy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was big. Thousands of people dancing on dance floors, serving 3 different things: ham, spaghetti, or so-and-so. Very mass food, but the food was good. I wasn't there, but I've heard it was good.
You're not that old.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, except I told you I worked for Disney, and somebody one night said, "How was it working with Walt?" I went,
Check yourself, sir.
"Yeah, no, I wasn't there." I do have Walt in the book. The Tam O'Shanter is the oldest restaurant that's still operating, and that's over in the valley. And they called that the Walt Disney Commissary because it was so close to the original studio. And they even, when you go there, there's a plaque that says Walt Disney's favorite booth or something like that.
Oh,
So,
and that was popular then too. People had favorite tables, like at Musso and Frank's Grill, which I was at the other day. And I do have to say, the book talks about their martinis, and it's true.
Yeah.
They really do have
Manny,
great.
that worked there for years. I have a whole page picture of Manny.
And 41
Yeah.
years he's been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and he's retired, but he still shows up for work. He doesn't know he's supposed to leave.
The only job he's ever had,
Yeah.
actually, this
Yeah.
waiter that people
Yeah.
request.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp requests him.
Right.
Al Pacino eats there over the
And
years.
he tells you, and he was interesting when I was interviewing him because I've known him for years. And he says, "Oh, the 30s."
Which one? Who do you know for years?
Manny.
Manny, yes.
Yeah. And he'd say, "Oh, they would do everybody would do the simple drink with an ice cube, and then you got into the cosmopolitans, and the years of drinks changed. And now
Yes.
we're going back to the old retro drinks, which is great."
Yes, and the retro glasses that go with them. Because over the years, martini glasses, for example, have become bombastic, large tubs.
Yeah.
But, the old ones really were quite fine.
You wanted your martini to be cold, ice cold the whole time while
Right.
you're drinking it.
And basically, it's straight vodka. So
Yeah.
honestly, how could you have 3?
Well, they used to.
They
at
used,
lunch.
yes, but they had those
Yeah.
3 martini lunches, but the glasses
But they
were smaller.
Now it's a 1 martini lunch.
Well, yeah. Well, so the book also talks about cocktails. Like I think it's the Moscow Mule was invented at Cock and Bull,
Yep.
which is no longer there, but it's a bar. So for all you cocktail lovers, there's recipes as well in the book. So
the original recipes.
yes, the cocktail recipes as well as food recipes. So you get this flavor of a history because you're also getting some of the things that they made, which food is fashionable like clothes. Things change
Yep.
according to the decades, and some of the things they made and all the butter that they used. My word.
I had to change a few recipes in it because
Oh,
90%
interesting.
of them are original. But there were things like there's Trax, which is a French restaurant over on Sunset, way down close to downtown LA. It's one of the oldest restaurants.
Tex, you mean?
Yeah,
Yes,
Tex.
Tex,
I was
yes.
thinking of Trax, a different place.
Yes,
Yeah, Tex.
it's
Yeah.
Taix, but it's
Yeah.
pronounced Tex.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they had in their recipes MSG in everything back in the 40s and 50s.
Back in the day.
And so when they saw that chapter and they read it and they liked it and stuff, and they said, did you change the recipes? Because they knew I was going for originality. I said, yes, I made all the recipes for what we use today.
Right. No color 5.
Yeah, no color 5. But the Brown Derby, I have a recipe for, it was Sunday special. It was the chicken that was paprika chicken, and they only served it once a week, but they boiled it in heavy cream, the chicken breast. And if you don't think these are the most moist chicken breasts you've ever had, but you don't eat
I
that
don't
anymore.
I don't, because
you
I've
just
gone
tasted
vegan,
it,
but
didn't
yes,
you?
and I saw that could be good.
Yeah, but all the heavy cream and stuff, and so our taste buds have changed also.
Yes, right.
There's 3 items in the book that are original recipes. One's the cock and bull Moscow Mule, over on Sunset, 1948, and it got popular after Oprah and Gail went to Yosemite and started serving them. People were like, I got to have those copper mugs.
And I was going to say, because they're served in these copper mugs.
And over at that restaurant, they used to have the names engraved of the star that the copper mug was from, because people would sit there in the afternoon and have their place. Now, the key to that recipe is make sure you get cock and bull ginger beer. It has a little bit more spiciness.
Oh, I love that.
And you get that at Bevmo, but I would definitely make sure you use that.
So one of the things I love about that era is, now, because there's so many chefs and there's so many restaurants and everyone wants to be seen at these places, so you're hopping around a lot. Have you tried this one? Have you tried that one? This one's new. It seemed then that they had I'm getting off of the movie set, I'm going to my place, my bar stool, my table, even my glass, my copper mug.
See, everything's my. So that was one. The original Cobb salad at the Brown Derby was made differently than we think of it. We think of it as a diner type thing with a pyramid of lettuce and rows of cheese and rows. Well, there they brought a long tray with rows, and they'd say tableside, do you want tomato? Do you want this? Do you want that? And then they would toss it tableside at you and then give it to you.
I so prefer that because I don't want bacon and I don't want egg.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or chicken.
So you'd
or
say,
blue cheese.
So we got some lettuce for you.
Got some lettuce and tomatoes.
A mock. And then the third item is the hot fudge sundae. You didn't live here when we had C.C. Brown's.
No.
That was now.
Gosh,
if we go to the page, which I thought was fascinating, it starts the book out. But what I did, I took my mom everywhere. And
your mom, I should say, a little bit of history for you. So Chef Geary comes from a long line of family members who worked in and around food. We'll say Vaughn's. Your grandmother worked at Vaughn's and Van de Kamp's at Vaughn's. And your mother worked as a car hop in Santa Monica. So a car hop meaning somebody who took food to cars when people had drive-ins.
Or walked. And I've got a picture of her in her little outfit.
So great,
And my grandfather was an executive chef in Vegas when Vegas started in the 40s.
So there was no free will really for you. No, we knew where the cards were stacked.
There you go. But it's kind of hard to see, but you can see the inlay. This flocked look of the paper, that is what the place of C.C. Brown's, all the wallpaper was. So I was there and I took some pictures. And C.C. Brown's stayed open for a while. It was a second family bought it. And they sold it. And they sold the rights to Lowry's. So that's when you go to Lowry's Prime Rib, you can have a hot fudge sundae, which I don't think tastes as good, but it's
never
pretty
the
close.
same. Okay.
And the location stayed a t-shirt shop. You know how Hollywood Boulevard has so many t-shirt shops at the time. And I went probably about 2 years ago, and I thought, I'm going to go in and see what's the exact, because I knew I was working on the book. So that's why I took pictures of the paper that was still hanging, and the chandeliers were still hanging. Now it's, I think, a Ross Dress for Less store. They've taken it completely out. But I love the history as to how things started. And so just for those of you listening on the podcast, Chef was pointing out in the book that some of the pages have the texture. You can't feel it, but they have the image print of the old wallpaper. So the book is really authentic and has that wonderful old feeling. But I love the story, like, for example, here at the Bar 1200, this was built as an answer to the Playboy Club. So the Playboy Club in Los Angeles was right next door, and they needed a hotel to handle the people going to the club. And, that's how it originally started, and then it caught on. So just like the Cock and Bull, you have these people who want to go and have their drink and their stool and come to the Sunset Marquis for the same reason. So so much history in LA, but as you say, you could do the same book in New York and Chicago. And even history on this street, Sunset Boulevard. I was on my way over here, I was thinking of all the restaurants that were on this street. La Dome was down the street, and there was Cyrano's was across the way, and then just Spago's. It just goes on and on and on. And most of those buildings are completely gone. The Cock and Bull is the Jaguar dealership, like I said, right on the corner down there by Doheny, or a little further. I forget, all the way down Sunset. And they have a plaque in the front that says this is where the Cock and Bull was and the original drink. And they were smart in marketing. Nobody knew what ginger beer was back then. Well, they created the ginger beer, and you had to buy their ginger beer to create the drink in your establishment. So you're still buying.
Oh, so smart.
Yeah. So that was a way. And ginger beer doesn't have any alcohol in it, so it's just a kind of a.
It's just a soft drink, right?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
But you can find it in, and I get it in the cans, and it's great. Yeah.
Well, so Sunset Marquis has undergone changes over the years, of course, and so parts of it are lovely still, and parts of it are like, do I really want to be on this part of Sunset anymore? But I think it'll come back, if not having sort of a renaissance as we speak.
As long as it doesn't turn into Santa Monica Boulevard, where it's all condos that are 5 stories up, and you go to Playa del Rey area. That's how the cities are turning, and with all the stores on the bottom and no feel. I guess Barney's Beanery is up for gonna maybe be incorporated into a building structure. I'm not for tearing things down, but I think we can change things for our use today.
Yes, to retain some of that history.
Yeah, like the Ambassador Hotel, where Kennedy was killed, Robert Kennedy. That was originally, Donald Trump purchased the property, and he was going to, like he says in a lot of things, he was going to build a huge conglomerate and keep the look of it, and it didn't happen. So he sold it back to the city, and then they turned it into a school. Now, the LA Conservancy that I do a lot of work with, they said, instead of take this building and tear it down, you can create a school out of this hotel. And we've got swimming pools. We have a lawn in the front that can be a football area, but they decided to tear it down completely, almost completely. There's different reports that some of the walls are still up, but I drove by many times and there wasn't much a whole lot there. But that's where a lot of stars played, and Academy Awards, the second one was there.
Yeah, so much history, and you hate to lose it. Well, with all your words of wisdom about architecture and old restaurants, I would be remiss if I didn't start asking you about some serious cooking tips.
Okay.
So
I'll
let
take
me.
a bite. You asked me the serious cooking tip.
So, is there anything that you make for yourself? And I'm going to ask this question really slowly since you just took a bite. Is there, of course, you're always cooking for other people and sometimes many people, and you're always giving cooking classes. But when you're home and it's just you, or maybe just you and a friend, and you're cooking, what is your go-to? I can do this in 5 minutes, super fast. This is my no-frills thing that I make for myself.
Taco salad.
Ooh, yummy.
From one of my books. Yeah.
I make taco.
My mom made a lot, and so a taco salad. I always try to do a starch, a vegetable, and a main dish of some sort.
So good for you.
Yeah, do the 3, But and salad, I love salads. But the other night did a tri-tip roast with some mashed potatoes. Now, the French, they don't cook everything. Mostly in the south of France, the housewife in the evening, let's say she's having a dinner party, she won't make everything herself. Some side dishes she'll purchase. So like the mashed potatoes are.
Oh, I'm surprised.
Potato chips.
Are you sure?
Yeah, positive. It's part of my whole French tour. They never make the pastry.
Well, okay, fair enough. No, of course.
They go the high end. But there's certain things that they focus on the guest, and they just purchase certain things sometimes. So once in a while, if I'm having a dinner party, I might purchase a few things. Not saying pre-made, but just easier to make sure the event's going to go well.
Maybe like a salsa or something like that you would purchase. Yeah. I do a lot of Mexican food at home. Just because it's vegetarian, it's tasty, and I love things that are spicy.
Yeah. I'll go out to dinner for Mexican food a lot.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite place at Mexican food, and they're chicken suizas. It's over in the Silver Lake district.
Oh, I'm in Silver Lake now. Where? Tell me which it is.
I knew you were going to ask me, and I'm thinking in my mind the name because I'm thinking of that. Casita del Campo. Have you ever been there?
Where is it?
Okay, it's on Hyperion
Yes.
You're going down Hyperion. Make the turn from like Hollywood Boulevard.
Okay.
Go down, and you're going
Oh.
towards Gelson's.
Okay.
But you back up
Okay.
3 blocks right-hand side, and it's the owner, the former. Well, he's passed away, but he was one of the dancers in West Side Story. And so you go in, and there's a lot of historical, and they have an underground theater down below. And so it's,
how cool is that?
Yeah. You know, Alison Ingram from she was Nellie from the Little House on the Prairie.
Okay.
She has done her one-woman show there, and so they do all these like really artsy things down there.
Casita del Campo.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the margarita, the salsa. You could just sit there and have a margarita and salsa and chips and forget the world.
This is great because I can walk to there, so
Oh,
I'm going to
see?
do that.
You can-
so yeah,
you can stumble
so I can
home.
have many margaritas. Because that's my absolute favorite drink, actually. Well, okay, so let me ask you about this, or maybe I should say, help me educate people about this, because I didn't, I cook at home. I love to do that, and I love to entertain, but I've doubled or tripled that effort since I became vegan, because it's very hard to get food out in restaurants that are I mean, there's certainly in LA, there's more than in Chicago, but often they may be vegan, but they're just going fried, and so it's like defeating the purpose, really. So it's hard to get the kind of food I want, I guess, in restaurants, because there's so much butter, and even the vegan stuff is fried. And so I've been cooking like triple at home, and what I do, one, because it soothes me so much, because I love to chop vegetables. Now that I'm vegan, I'm chopping much more than I ever did. And so I've gotten really finicky about sharp knives. And I never, I mean, yes, maybe I had a food processor. I know you have several books on food processing. Yes, I have a Cuisinart, and I have a blender for smoothies and stuff. But basically, I, saute my stuff and I move on. Or I bake my stuff and I move on. But now I've gotten really finicky about a knife sharpener and always having a sharp knife, because like trying to get through a tomato with a dull knife will just send me to an insane asylum.
Yeah, and the tomato, if it's like an heirloom tomato from the farmer's market, with a dull knife, you just have squished tomato.
You've ruined the tomato.
I think tomatoes are you should test your knife with a tomato. That should be the perfect, is it sharp enough?
Yes.
If I can't do it with the tomato, then you're in trouble.
Right, if I can't do it with ease, like it should just cut through.
Like paper.
Right, exactly
then
like paper.
You need to sharpen the
Well,
knife.
and something that I didn't know before is that an unsharp knife is actually much less safe, because it doesn't really hold to the food, doesn't grip the food, and so you have a bigger chance of it.
And being cut with a knife like that is a jagged cut versus a very nice clean cut.
Yeah, oh, interesting.
Yeah, so if you're gonna...
I've become very finicky about my knives, and now I just feel like, oh my gosh. And I'm not sort of a finicky chef, but I just feel like, oh yeah, I'm not. If this knife isn't sharp, I'm not chopping.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
So do you have that at home? Anything that I must have this kind of food processor. I must have this kind of salt. I must have this kind of knife.
Spatulas, icing cakes. I have a certain spatula I like. Knives are a personal thing with people, because I'll be in the cooking school and they'll say, "Oh, I want to get a set of knives." I go, that's personal to where. How does it feel in your hand? Because
the weight of it.
Certain. There was a knife company years back. I won't name the name, but global. But the problem with it was my hand did not grip the knife correctly. But somebody, your hand would be perfect.
Maybe, right.
And your knuckles would hit. So for me, but it would be perfect for you probably. So knives are a personal thing of which ones feel the best. And all you need is a chef knife, a bread knife, a small boning knife of some sort. And you don't need that whole big block with 20 knives.
The set.
Yeah, it's kind of like cake decorating. People will think, I need every little tip. I use like 3 tips all the time.
So you are a phenomenal baker, I'm guessing, just by how many cookbooks you have out about baking.
Pastry is what I
is your
pretty
thing.
much, but I still I have to eat regular food too.
Well, okay, so, it's good to hear.
Yeah.
Although, if there's one thing that makes me reconsider being vegan, and I just don't do it because of how I feel about animals and the dairy industry, it's sweets. Because God, if there's anything I miss, it's frosting. Yeah. Oh my word. Yeah, I just like to eat frosting right out of the bowl. Yeah, cookie dough, cake batter, I want it right out of the bowl.
Cream cheese frosting.
You know, it doesn't do it for me.
Oh, see, that with carrot cake, it has to be.
Oh, okay.
Good,
No, that's the exception.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
See, that's healthy. Carrot cake, it's a
vegetable.
vegetable.
Fine, I'll go with that. So what's the thing everybody should know how to make? The one thing that hands down everybody should know.
Oh, well, in my sauce book, because I do a lot of sauces, vodka sauce. It's a vodka pasta sauce. So if you can make that, you can keep anybody around, you know?
And why is this? Because it's
just
so...
the sauce of love.
Because it gives you a slight buzz, or...
No, it's just...
it's so good.
And everybody likes it.
I never have vodka sauce.
Yeah, it's called vodka sauce. Let's see. You should know how to make a proper chicken breast and stuff like that, if you're going with meats. I'm not a fish person, so but
sorry.
No. As I say that,
I ordered
no, this is really great.
I'm sorry.
This is really good. But you should know how to. You can do an appetizer. I tell people for weddings, you need a wedding cake and champagne. You don't need the dried old chicken and you know.
Agreed.
Because how many people want to go that?
And you make everybody suffer through that dried old chicken. It's just painful for everybody, including the chicken.
And you're all really upset about it. So weddings are another thing that all you need is a really good cake, champagne, and a good time. But if you're having a party, like we're going to have some people over for the election night, and I'm going to just do appetizers, but it's, make the appetizers one more notch above, and that's kind of like wings. I love different flavored wings. And then different salsas. I have a lot of salsas in the sauce book. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm going to have to get that sauce book because I love to make dips. I know that sounds funny, but I do a homemade hummus, my own food processor, hummus. So handy there. So chickpeas
in the... You have to do the hummus.
And then I saute, I like things spicy and garlicky, so I saute garlic and onions and just salt and a dash of Tabasco, just like ding, like not more than that. Chickpeas in the processor, I keep some of the juice from the can of chickpeas and then olive oil as well.
Runnier.
But, well...
Do you use tahini at all?
I do not. Yeah. I do not. I go big time garlic, no tahini. And then, this is what I was going to ask you. Do you have any of your own sort of heritage family recipes? Like my mother makes an oysters Rockefeller, and I cannot tell you the secret ingredient, but it's rock star.
Well, my dad's mother, she was from South Dakota, and she made, now I wrote a whole thing on the Wall Street Journal about this story type of thing. My grandmother would make this heavenly fudge cake, is what it was called. And my dad wanted it so bad. She passes away. The cookbook is around. This recipe does not make sense. Oh, you know, I'm looking at it and go, this isn't making sense.
And it's handwritten, right?
Yeah. And I'm thinking, but I talked to her years before because she was a pie baker. And she'd take them to the bazaars. You know, right now we have these bazaars going on. Old lady bazaars, I call them. And I say they're bizarre because everything they sell there is bizarre. You know, who needs... the little things, hangers that are all crocheted around.
My grandmother needs that,
that type of thing. So,
really badly, actually.
Yeah. So my grandmother would take these pies, and one time I was probably about 9, and I didn't like the crust. I would eat the filling out. And my aunt she'd say, "You just people pay a good price for those pies. You should eat the whole thing." So anyway, I take the pies one time with my grandmother, and people are lined up. The first 6 people get one of my grandmother's pies. And I told her, I said, "What did you do special?" Because they were pumpkin, and I knew I was going to be a pastry chef even at 9.
Oh.
And she said, "I buy the Libby's mix, and I make the Crisco can recipe. That's all." People believe old people that they do. But I'm thinking, if you think of older people at Thanksgiving, she'd also make the cranberries. I'll make the cranberries. You know, oh, Grandma has to make the cranberries. That's the easiest recipe I've ever done in my whole life. Water, sugar, boil it, and throw the cranberries in. Right, It's done. I'm thinking my grandmother as a kid slaved to make the cranberries. So that's the thing with this heavenly fudge cake is I have this feeling
it was so simple.
There's no real new recipes that they're stolen from back of boxes, like the mayonnaise cake, this cake. And so I've tried to research close, can't find it. I've made that recipe. It doesn't taste right. My dad's like, no. But then you look at, let's just say cocoa powder at the time. She wouldn't say how much cocoa powder she used or what flavor or brand to where we've got so many different cocoa powders on the market now. Which one would be the best? So,
right.
So as far as family heirloom recipes, no, not really. I mean, my mom, good cook. She does simpler stuff. I this cute little story. And then Thanksgiving, your palate. I feel when you go to a spouse's house for Thanksgiving, cranberries don't taste right.
Once, I'm saying this was grounds for breakup. Once I went to a boyfriend's Thanksgiving, and their stuffing, this is so upsetting people, their stuffing was oysters with oyster crackers. Now, that is not stuffing. Stuffing has celery and whole grain bread.
But then take that boyfriend to your house and goes, oh, this is horrible. It doesn't have my oysters in it.
He'd be wrong.
So but that's where Thanksgiving's a perfect time to go to somebody else's house. You go, oh, this is nice, but not that nice. So my mom, one year, she makes her mac and cheese. Well, it's what I grew up with. Now, it's Velveeta, and it's just the Elba macaroni. But anybody else would say, this is horrible. But me, that's what I grew up with, so that's home. So I look at it, and I walk in, and I had to put sunglasses on. It was so neon orange. I said, Mom, She goes, growing up, I couldn't afford to put the whole brick in of the cheese. Now we can. So I was like, but this isn't the recipe. But
too much cheese, yeah.
Yeah, but so I think that goes to prove of what your palate is, and what you grew up with, and what you think is the best. And some people just think this is good or that is good. And I've judged so many food programs and shows and things. And when people bring their can I tell that story? Yeah, I can kind of. It's a quick one. I had to think about it.
Please tell.
No, I do casting for some of the TV shows. In fact, the building down the street, I was working casting there one day, and people bring in their food, and this one lady, she is so, I'm not going to tell you the show, but she is so excited about her food, and she's from the South, and she's standing there, and she opens up her Tupperware, and the chef next to her has this plate with beautiful painting all over it, and he's putting his stuff, and I'm going to taste it. Well, she puts her Tupperware lid down and slops some stuff on, and then stands there, and I thought, oh boy, what is it? And the person next to her does the same thing. And so I've got the two gals and him, and her, I go up to her and I said, and what do we have here? She goes, smashed taters. Okay. I said, now, do you use anything special? She says, yep. Got
Tater
special
tots.
recipes. No, not that bad. But
Okay.
I said, what do you do? She goes, I use imperial margarine, and I cook healthy. I said, you do? Now, see, I'm there to judge them without them knowing. I'm not there to educate them.
Sure, okay, fair enough.
And I said, oh, what spice? She goes, I use MSG because I'm healthy cooking. And I was like, okay. So I take a little bite, and and that's about it. Get to the next person, which is with hers. I said, oh, are you sisters? Oh, no, we're mom and daughter. Okay. So the daughter, I said, do you use Imperial? Oh, no.
Never.
I said, what do you use? I'm thinking she's going to say butter. She goes, I use Blue Bonnet. I said, oh, okay. So I said, do you use MSG too? Yes, and she made mac and cheese. And she says, yes, I do, because I cook healthy also. So to these two ladies, these recipes were their family recipes. Yeah. This is what they grew up on. They couldn't, I don't know, afford, or they didn't use butter. When I was really young, I don't remember us having a lot of butter in the house. My mom, that's all she'll use now. But I think it's your palate is what you grew up with. And those two did not get on the show. But
Really?
It would have been fun, though, by saying, Anthony Bourdain would have died tasting their stuff.
I think what you say is so true, because my mother would die before she would serve mac and cheese at Thanksgiving. Oh. So it just,
now, I'm thinking, I don't even know if my mom just put it on the side that year for that mac and cheese. Because mac and cheese was a dinner thing. And I remember my mom in one skillet would do this like roast with a big bone in the middle, and the dog got the bone. Yeah. And I asked my mom, I said, she goes, I don't think, and cube steak. Cube steak was something she did. And there were less expensive meats. Oh, there goes the fork.
I've got another fork for you somewhere. Here,
less expensive meats. And we weren't poor. It's just you stretched things.
You sure did, and women
Never
really had
food.
Right, they could. Poor women, they couldn't do fast food, but they had limited budgets. They often didn't have control of the finances. They had to make this money stretch. They had to really, it was culinary economics. Home ec was really a thing.
Yeah, and you didn't have 3 types of milk. You had whole milk.
Right, and that's which
whole milk.
Which helped things
that's
probably.
All you have.
But yeah.
But dinner was on the table every night.
Always,
you know,
always.
Always night.
Well, my mother had some very, like what she can do with lasagna. She has this very secret ingredient. Again, I can't tell. And
But you know what it is.
Oh, I sure do, because I make it
you
myself.
Sat around.
Oh, yeah. Well, because I've sought out these recipes now over the years. And I have to say, for the record, I make the meanest and best margarita. I have a very secret ingredient this side of Mexico. Next time you're on my show, I'll have you over for margaritas.
Margaritas.
So 2 quickie questions before I let you go. What are we always going to find in your refrigerator?
Well, you won't. Well, yeah. No, what you'll always find. Always milk. Cream cheese, because I have to make cheesecakes, because I didn't.
Okay.
I did all the cheesecakes on Golden Girls back in the 80s.
Oh, you did?
So, yeah, when you watch the show, I can tell what year it is. Always, I've got 6 pounds of cream cheese right now in my fridge.
Sweet Jesus.
Yeah, I've got to make some cheesecakes for Mom, but I've been on tour for so long. Let's see. I have hummus. I've got some now. I love to make my own, but sometimes I buy it because you're hungry and you're bam.
Easy.
Fresh preserves. Every summer I go to the Hollywood Farmers Market or Santa Monica. I did peaches this year, apricots and stuff like that. So I'll always have fresh preserves. My pantry, I stock stuff like that.
My cousin actually makes her own preserves. Emily Lazar, just shout out to her. She makes her own peaches and raspberries, and every year I think this is such a great Christmas gift. She then gives everybody peach preserves that she made that year. It's really wonderful. Okay, final question for you. Obviously, you're on a show called The Celebrity Dinner Party. So who would you like to cook for? Who would you like to have at a dinner party, alive or dead?
I wouldn't want to cook for anyone.
Oh, really?
I want them to just
cook
come
for you.
No.
Oh.
I would like, I don't know, have Frank Lloyd Wright.
Okay.
Because he was a crazy, wild man.
Yes.
I think to.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Tim Gunn, because I think his vocabulary would be fascinating. Because you sit there, I haven't seen it for years, but you'd watch some of that Project Runway.
Yes.
And he would say these things. You had never heard the word before, but you knew what it meant. Isn't that great?
Tim Gunn, that's good. See, these are good because I asked this question of everyone at the end of the interview, and these are new ones. So, okay, Frank Lloyd Wright and Tim Gunn. I like it.
Somebody fun. Well, they both would be fun. Political? No, because someone might fight with somebody. Oh, boy. I would probably... Dead or alive. Somebody... one of our founding fathers, I'd like to ask him some questions of how they feel things are interpreted today.
Oh, that's a great one. Oh, I like that a lot.
Back then women didn't vote, so you're thinking, all right.
And women weren't the only ones who didn't vote. Yeah.
Same-sex marriage. Would you have thought it was okay?
Right.
Right. What? Religion play. Now we're getting political, but I think that's why I'd want somebody from a founding father, Benjamin Franklin, or something like that. I think that would be fascinating to conversation.
I think it would also be great re-education for people because of recent, in the political debates, people have been, tossing around, oh, so-and-so wants to repeal this amendment. Yeah. And actually you can't. The president can't. They actually set it up so well. You need 2/3 of Congress
of all the states
and
to
3/4 of the states.
Like
no president can just walk in.
Number two. I mean, the Second Amendment, that drives me crazy.
Me too.
That was one of the first things everybody said about Obama. He's going to take away our guns. Well, we're 8 years almost.
Right, yeah.
And if people would educate themselves about
the actual process,
the
Constitution,
it's so difficult to do it in the correct way.
Yeah.
By just one man cannot do anything, and that's why we're set up that way.
No.
And people really should. So I think that would be fascinating to get somebody from a founding father to be able to say, that's kind of crazy. And I think I'd like. Do I get 4 people?
You could go right ahead, as many as you want.
Oh well, I think a newscaster of some sort, somebody older that might be gone.
So I've had Bill Curtis on this show, and he was great to have on. Yeah, he's so knowledgeable, and he has all these stories over the years of people he's interviewed, and hurricanes and political things and shootings and Chicago 1968, this kind of stuff.
I think something like that might be fascinating. You have to, when you have a dinner party of any sort, you have to figure out the people and why you would have them.
The right pairings.
Because I don't think Frank Lloyd Wright would get along with any of those people. So I think we might have to knock him out for a
just
luncheon.
Give him a couple drinks early on and see
a luncheon or something. But he was forward. He had like 3 or 4 wives and affairs, and he left the country with a client. And people were it was on front page newspaper in Chicago back in the day.
He reminds me of Ernest Hemingway a little bit.
They weren't very far from each other.
They weren't physically very far from each other, and also the time, they weren't far in historical times.
They probably were neighbors and kind of kicked it
they drank together.
at the pub down the way.
Well, that said, cheers to you and to your new book,
Thank you so
LA's
much.
Legendary Restaurants. It is out now, I think,
Yep.
right? You can just
Down the
Amazon
street
your
at Book
way,
Soup.
right?
We'll be
Down the
at
street
Book
at
Soup in December doing a big signing.
Oh, okay, that's right. So
Yeah.
you're around town doing
yeah.
signings, and I think you also teach at Purdue, don't you, in
I'm
Indiana?
down in Indiana area.
So you
Yeah,
might
I've
swoop
got-
into Chicago, who
yep,
knows?
I'll be everywhere.
So Christmas gift, I'm doing it for sure. Thanks for being here
Thank
today.
you.
Thanks for joining in on The Celebrity Dinner Party with me, Elizabeth Alfano. To stay in the know, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at DinnerPartyCHGO, and on Facebook at The Dinner Party and at Elizabeth Alfano. To subscribe to this podcast, find The Celebrity Dinner Party on iTunes and on SoundCloud. And if you want to send me an email about today's podcast or anything else, you can find all my information at thedinnerparty.tv. The editor of The Celebrity Dinner Party is Joshua Snyder. The original music is by the Websters and Ship Captain Crew. Thanks for listening today, and join me on the next Dinner Party podcast where the best conversations happen over dinner.